Good day, everyone. My name is Moh Najer Osman, and today I am going to report all about Nigerian psychotherapy, person of tomorrow, Chicago studies, and philosophy of science and related research. I hope by the time you are watching this, you already watched the other video all about Rogers and its person-centered theory presented by Ms. Apeliada so that you can fully comprehend what I am saying in this video. So, psychotherapy, Nigerian psychotherapy, or what's called the client-centered therapy, is a therapy that is so hard to perform. From its word client-centered, this therapy revolves around the client, meaning you are going to let your client do think the best option she or he wanted to take to resolve his own problem. You're just going to make him or her realize in this therapy what's the thing he or she must do to become a fully functioning person, which will be discussed later. So, in client centered therapy, it is like the person centered theory. It is stated in evident fashion. If the therapists have the condition of Rogerian therapy, which is congruence, unconditional positive regard, and empathic listening, then the process of Rogerian therapy will transpire. And if the process of Rogerian therapy takes place, then certain outcome can be predicted. So in this therapy, psychotherapy, there are three conditions a therapist must attain to perform and to help the client to become a fully functioning individual. First is a counselor congruence, meaning a therapist, in order for a person or a client to fully share his experience and open up his or her problem, you'll need to be real and genuine towards him. And second is unconditional positive regard, meaning you need to give a client as a therapist a warm and accepting atmosphere. And next, empathic listening, meaning you'll need to fully comprehend or understand what a client's situation is, being in the same spot where the experience happens. One of the clue to do one of the clue sorry One of the clue to do this is to ask some question rather than marking those experience into your own, because if you do compare or find similarity on on your experience to what clients is experiencing, then it will be hard for you to understand is the client is saying. This isn't about you, and it is about client. So you really need to fully comprehend and understand what the client is experiencing. So, in order for this therapy to keep going, Roger have a key flow or process to help the therapist have an idea what to expect and what is happening. There's this seven therapeutic process that can make the therapist know if this therapy is working for a certain client or not. So, first stage, the client will become unwilling and will try to filter anything and resistant to change. Second stage, the client becomes slightly rigid and will talk about external events. Third stage, the client will talk about himself, but as an object. Fourth stage, client begin to talk deep feeling, but not the feeling he or she currently felt. Fifth stage, the client can be seen expressing emotion, more relying on their decision making abilities and etc. Sixth stage, the client show growth towards the congruence and develop unconditional positive regards. And the seventh stage, the client will become a fully functioning individual. So as you can see in this process, at first the client will be more resistant to change, but as the process keep going and the therapist attaining those three conditions, and hopefully the client will develop, and at the end hopefully he or she will become the fully functioning individual. So this is the theoretical explanation for therapeutic change. So first, there's a client who is experiencing something and he wants or need to change it or do something about it. So this reassessment here is the part where a client go to the therapy to reassess himself, to be listened, and to realize things he must do in life. And hopefully soon, as he keep going to the therapy, he'll develop and applies those things he learned from the therapy and became a fully functioning person. So after this process, an outcome can hopefully predicted, and this characteristic below are the predicted outcomes of client-centered therapy. The following conditions and its process. So th- this is the characteristic of a person who already finished the process of of this Rogerian psychotherapy. So one of the example is a person will become more congruent, be less defensive, become more open to experience, and etc. So person of tomorrow, what kind of person would emerge after the therapy? So person of tomorrow is just another synonym for a fully functioning person. And here below are the possible characteristics. A product of a product person from Algerian psychotherapy. But all of this is not all required to be seen in one person. It is some things you hopefully can see from a person who came from a client-centered therapy. So, philosophy of science. This is how Roger comprehend the science or believe the science is. According to Roger, science begins and ends with a subjective experience, although everything in between must be objective and empirical. So Roger believed that scientists must have many of the characteristics of a person of tomorrow. That is, they must be inclined to look within, to be in tune with internal feelings and values, to be intuitive and creative, to be open to experience, to welcome the change, to have fresh look, to have a fresh outlook, and to possess a solid trust in themselves. Roger believed that scientists should completely involve in a phenomena being studied. For example, people who conduct research on psychotherapy must first have a long career as a therapist. So Roger believed that science begins when an intuitive scientist starts to perceive patterns among phenomena, and this seen phenomena is not precisely accurate at first, so it should not be communicated. It must be nourished first. So after it has been nourished, it will be formulated as a testable hypothesis, and then methodology kicked in, and the scientists then communicate the result, and the result will be subjective. It will depends on how the receiver of the finding peruse and accept those results. So the Chicago studies. Chicago studies, this study is a research happened at the University of Chicago and Wisconsin to test Rogers' process and outcome or the whole concept of client-centered therapy. The important point to understand or to remember in this point is that client-centered therapy is successful, but it does not always result in a fully functioning individual. So related research. First, related research is self-discrepancy theory, a theory of E. Torrey Higgins, a developed version of Rogers' theory that stated that we have a tree self representation or self concept, which is a real self, what we truly is, second, ideal self, what we think we wanted to become, and last, ought to self or ought self, or what we think we should become. So in this theory, it says that if there's a discrepancy or lack of similarity or conflict between two self concepts, and it will lead us to negative feelings. Self discrepancy between actual self and outer self will result to guilt, shame, resentment, and anxiety. Actual actual self and self discrepancy between ideal self will also result to disappointment, frustration, and depression. So many researchers continue the research of the self discrepancy theory, and results in finding out that the self discrepancy is most probably can be seen towards people who is self-focused. And another researcher continued to research about sorry about whether a where where a woman or a man is prone to this self discrepancy, and the result is women are more self-focused, so that they are more prone to feel extremely to feel the extreme effects of self discrepancy. So another related research is motivation and pursuing one's goal. One area of research where Roger ideas continue to be more influential is goal pursuit. Setting and pursuing goals is a way for a people to organize their lives in a way that leads to desirable outcomes and adds meaning to daily activities. According to Roger, a source of psychological distress is incongruence, or when one's ideal self does not sufficiently overlap with his or her self concept, and this incongruence can be presented in goal or a person chooses to pursue. So, according to Roger, there's an incongruence or overlapping between ideal and self concept and person's motivation and goal pursuit, and it can easily be seen on a goal of a person he chooses to pursue. Just for example, if a person is taking a biology or a science courses when ideally he wanted to become an architect, and this conflict can cause distress. So in this theory, Roger believed we have an OVP, or an organismic valuing process, that will guide us towards the most fulfilling pursuit in life, even though there is this incongruence. So just like the first related research, in this second related research, there are also some modern researcher continue to research all about um, Rogers' motivation in pursuing one's goal. So Ken Sheldon and collegians have explored the existence of an OVP in a college students by designing studies that ask students to rate the importance of several goals repeatedly over the course of multiple weeks, and found out that in line with the prediction that people possess an OVP, the participant tended to rate the more fulfilling goals with increasing importance over time, and the materialistic goal with decreasing importance. So, another researcher, Ransom Sheldon and Jacobson, also explored Rogers' OVP process and context of cancer survival, and the research showed patients' report of positive personal growth were not illusory. They were reflected in a very real transition to valuing deeper, more fulfilling goals, more materialistic ones during the course of their career treatment, and so on. There's a lot of continuation about this topic about motivation and pursuing one's goal. So that's all I can share, and that's all the thing that I've learned and researched all about Roger psychotherapy and other topics. Hope you learned something, and have a good day.